Hey folks, welcome back. Today I want to help take your UX design case study writing to the next level. So I have an approach and a framework that I wanted to share with you, and I think this will help you go beyond what a bootcamp might teach you or whatever generic template you might find online. Look, I went through the General Assembly program, and after it, I was able to get my first design job within 3 months. So I am a major supporter of bootcamp programs and certificate programs because they're able to lower the bar to entry into the industry, and the industry needs new designers. And every year, there's so many new designers. I think that's all great. But at the same time, they're teaching everyone how to do UX case studies the same exact way. Though all good case studies all have the same components, the way you tell that story, how you went from problem to solution and how that solution was impactful, is a major part of making it memorable. It can make a big difference. Actually, I might even argue it makes all the difference. So I created a free guide for you, completely free, and the link is in the descriptions below so you can get it after the video. So just hang on a second, because through this video, what I want to do is walk you step by step through the guide, show you how best to use it, some of the thinking behind why I created it the way I did, and add in some commentary and tips that are not actually written into the guide. So let's get into it. As you can tell, it's nighttime. I'm wearing different clothes. The curtains are drawn. It's actually a couple of days after, so the video that I shot, the autofocus was trash, so eventually I just had to scrap it, and yeah, I didn't have time to shoot it that day again, so here I am. So let's get into it. So here it is. This is the UX case study storytelling guide, and this guide kind of walks you through a sequence of questions that I go through in my head as I'm trying to review a case study. And the series of questions, essentially, as I get answers to it, is kind of crafting a narrative for myself so I can better understand the case study, the different projects. So the first section is, what is the solution? So when I'm asking this question in my head, there's actually like maybe 3 things I'm trying to get at. One is, can you give me a sense of what it looks like? And can you share a little bit of how it works? And what was the impact of your solution? And the goal here for you is to provide the most efficient summary possible. The goal here isn't to write out answers for each of these questions. You could actually get very creative with it. So it could be, some detailed visual or a GIF. I've even seen demo videos to kind of convey all of this information. And one thing I'll mention is that hiring managers and recruiters completely understand that sometimes you may not be able to measure the success of your solution. That is completely okay. But in those scenarios, when that happens, you want to at least talk about, what you would have done to measure the success of your solution and what is the significance of having a successful solution. The next section is, what is the scope of the project? Here, I'm trying to set boundaries for how to understand and digest the information you're going to provide me in this case study. And it's things like, what was your role in the project? Were you a part of a team? What industry is it for? How long did the project take? What platform was it for? And what kind of tools did you use? And what you want to do is actually make this sort of like a at a glance type section, because I'm not trying to read a whole detailed paragraph around it. I'm just trying to get quick facts about this so I can kind of set myself up to kind of better understand and digest the rest of the case study. So the first 2 sections, what is the solution and what is the scope of the project? I wanted to kind of share an example because it may not be apparent based on what I just shared. So I found this article not so long ago, 8 well-done UX case studies every designer should read. And even without clicking into some of this, I think, my point is gonna get across. Here's an interesting example. So here, just by looking at the image, I get a sense of, oh, okay, so it's, for mobile. It looks like it's for e-commerce. It says eBay. Yeah, and then also based on the images, there's like a quick hit fact section right here where it was 2016 when this was done, the type of project. So now I have a better understanding. It's for some design system and you're working out some UX patterns. And then here is a little abstract of what this project is about. It's not that long. It seems like a pretty easy read, straight to the point, pretty direct. This is great. So even based on just this screenshot, I'm getting a lot of information that I want, and it fulfills the first 2 sections. What is the solution and what is the scope of the project? Just for fun, okay, here's an interesting example. Yeah, so here's another screenshot from one of the case studies Yeah, even without clicking into it. So just looking at this, you could tell it's for AR, augmented reality, just based on that image. There's like quick hit facts here, when it was done, what the role was, the tools that you use, skill sets that were required. And then there's like a really short context section. Perfect. It's not too long, so it'll be easy for me to read and get a feel for, what the story is about. And then there's also even like sections here, so I know what to expect. So this is essentially what I mean when I say, what is the solution? Can you answer that question for me? And what is the scope of the project? So the next section here is the problem statement. What is it? So you could do your problem statement, provide that, or a user story, or it could be a how might we statement or some other way you want to do it. But essentially what I'm looking for is the way you elaborate what the problem is. I just want to see if that matches what I think the problem is. And this is kind of part of helping me create the narrative. Because if you've already given me a sense of what the solution is, what the impact of that solution was, the scope of the project, I could get a feel for what problem you're attempting to solve, right? So what I'm trying to do here is, if your articulation of the problem matches mine, it develops more confidence in the rest of the case study, and it speaks a lot more to your UX abilities. Next is, what is the backstory? And here I'm trying to understand now, how did your problem become a problem that you're solving? Why does the business think that this problem is worth solving, and do you agree? And there's other factors too that often might get overlooked, which is, maybe there's something about user behavior that kind of was the catalyst for you working on this project. Or maybe it has something to do with like your team dynamics. Maybe there is, some sort of brainstorming or road mapping or some strategy work that's happening. And, from that work, this is how like you decided that this project was worth working on. Or maybe there were even some disagreements there, and then there's some backstory of how this bubbled up to be the project you're working on. So all that is super interesting. And those are the things that are pertinent to us understanding you as a designer, not just in the vacuum of solving a specific design problem, but just holistically understanding how you tackle a problem. So one thing I want to call out here that I think could be very helpful is that for junior designers applying for junior design roles, I think it's completely acceptable for your case study story to begin with, I was just given this problem, which is why I solved it, because that's reality. Like, it doesn't just apply to junior designers too. I mean, businesses and clients really want what they want, and you may not be in a position to really challenge it too much. I think that's completely acceptable, right? But if you want to elevate, your case study, I think that next level would be to frame the problem from the context of a business. Because essentially when they're asking you to solve a certain problem, they're trying to achieve something, right? Whether it be the right problems to solve or not. So understanding how your work connects to the top line business initiatives could really demonstrate that you understand not only the design work, but the business itself and how that all connects. And that could really demonstrate your UX abilities and help you stand out from the crowd. And also just makes for a better story. The next section is, what were the challenges and obstacles? And I know this seems pretty straightforward, but I think there's dimensions of challenges and obstacles that I often see being overlooked. So I think most design case studies really focus only on the usability piece. A user had an issue doing this, I tested it out and I solved it, which is completely fine, right? So for junior designers applying for junior design roles, I think that's completely acceptable, right? But now if you want to elevate your case study and also add to your narrative, there's probably a lot of other factors that you could consider when you're thinking about telling your case study story. From my experience as a design practitioner, there's many other factors. So it could be, maybe there's technical feasibility issues. There's also legal issues. Maybe there's some like data security issues that you have to, overcome. Did you have the budget to actually solve it the way you want to solve it? There's always some time constraint. There could be some relational factors too that can be impacting your design project, and that can be an amazing story to tell. And all of this put together, I think it just rounds out this whole it's a better way to maybe demonstrate your UX skill set ability and give the reader a better sense of how you might fare if we were to hire you and have you, a part of, one of our Scrum teams working with our engineers and our product managers and business stakeholders. Okay, so the next section is how did you approach the problem? This is the section where you want to show your design artifacts, your brainstorming sketches, your wireframes, your high fidelity mock-ups, your prototypes, demo videos, user journeys, all of the above. But I want to stress that you shouldn't just show them that you did it as if you're just checking a box of like, this is what I can do and here's what it looks like. It's more important for the narrative for you to walk through why each step was significant, why it was necessary. So if you decide to create a user journey, there's a purpose for that. What was that purpose? What did you learn and how did that help you get to the next step? Same with wireframes. Like, you don't just do a wireframe just to do a wireframe. You do it for a specific purpose. What was it? What did you learn? And did it help you get to the next step? And as far as like supporting some of these, ideas, it's helpful to think about using data in a more dynamic way, right? It's not just qualitative data, but it could be quantitative data. Sometimes you may have limited data, so you may have to like triangulate different types of data and make an assumption off of it. We'd love to know how you process that, because in reality, you're often not working with perfect information. So the more you could tell those imperfect stories, the better the narrative is, and the hiring manager and the recruiter can get a better sense of like how you might do in real life. As a designer, it speaks more to your design abilities. All right, so we're almost at the home stretch here, and this is number 7, how did it end? Here, I want to get some closure. So I could probably guess how all the dots connect, but it's always helpful when the writer, the case study, kind of just helps connect those dots for me and help me kind of land the conclusion and validate the fact that what I'm thinking actually is what you intended. Okay, so here's the last one, final one, number 8. If there was a sequel, what could we expect? And I often see this in the form of like a reflection section, but I wanted to be explicit here and say, if there was a sequel, what could we expect? Because oftentimes I see reflection sections getting a bit too personal and then start veering off of the main point, which is about the project, about the design project. And from the reader side, from the hiring manager side or the recruiter side, we know that, design projects and product development is iterative. And you're often not doing these projects with complete 100% information and you could execute it like perfectly and it's all encompassing, right? You're often, making assumptions, leading with hypotheses, doing the best you can to solve it. And then from that, you may learn things that will give you, more information to do it better the next time, to iterate on it. And that's kind of what we want to see. Like, we want to understand that you're able to think critically about it. And depending on what type of learnings you may get from this case study, how would you respond to it? How would you kind of critically think through and strategize the next steps to make this project even better if there was, a next step, if there was another iteration that you were able to do? Hey, so there you have it. That is the 8 sequence of questions that I go through every time I review case studies. And if you go through these questions, kind of really think through all the different bullet points and different factors that I've laid out, I think you'll naturally create a narrative that will make your case study stronger. But I didn't just leave it there. So I also added in a frequently asked questions and bonus tip section to help you out even more. And it covers things like, what is actually the purpose of a case study? And I think there's some misunderstanding or misconception about what the purpose of the case study is, so I wanted to answer that question here. And it also covers things like, how many case studies do I need? How long should a case study be? What platform should I use to create my portfolio? And other things like how to maybe even use your headers, titles, subtitles to help with the narrative within your case study. So you could get all this completely free. The link is in the descriptions below. I really hope this helps you elevate your case studies, help you stand out from the crowd, help you have more of a story and narrative in your case study to better demonstrate your UX designer abilities to the hiring managers and recruiters. But hold on, don't go yet. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing if you like content like this. I'm always thinking about things to teach, share, give away to help you design better and be a better designer. I'll see you in the next one.